Okay, so this is some called Q Notes. It's something that you can use in class during lectures, right? If a teacher's lecturing and you need to take notes in class. It's something that you can use for readings. So if a teacher gives you an article to read at home and you need to take notes, or from a textbook, right? So it's just one way that you can take notes for any information, right? So we're going to call this how to use Q Notes. Okay? Right. So let's look at the paper first off, right? You'll see that the Q Notes up top has two different sections, right? There's this small, narrow section that's blank, and then there's this larger section over here with lines, right? This is where you're going to put your notes over here. So your notes from the lecture, from the readings, will go over in this section, right? This is where you're going to take notes. Over here, where it's blank, right? This section is something that you would do later. If you had a lecture from class, you could do this maybe later at home. If you're doing reading, you would do it second, right? So this is afterwards. And in this section, you come up with titles, or you could turn topics into questions, right? And why are you going to use this section? This section is good for reviewing, which we'll talk about later, right? So notice that it's separated along this line right here. This is something that you'll use later, okay? Let's go down to the bottom and just look at that really quickly, and then we'll talk about it later. Down here at the bottom, you see another section, right? This blank section right here. It's much smaller. This section is used for reviewing and retelling, right? So this is a summary section, right? Now, you notice it's not big enough to put all your notes in, so you're going to use your own words. So you're using your own words, right, to summarize what you've taken in your notes section, right? So you've got notes here. You're going to turn it into either a topic title or a topic question, and then a summary down here. So there are three sections, and you see, right, remember this line in between the notes and the other section, right? This will be important later. Okay, let's erase all of this. And let's use an example, right? Because everybody knows that I'm an American and I like history. We're going to take some notes on American history, right? So American history. Okay? So this could be something that you've done as a lecturer. Your teacher gives you notes during a PowerPoint, something like that. So you're going to put your notes, again, in this section. Remember, you can take your notes however you want, right? You can use bullet points, dashes, you could use symbols to shorten abbreviations, right? Be as efficient as possible, right? So that you can take as many notes. Okay, so let's go through American history very briefly, right? America had many different colonies. I'm going to abbreviate different. Right, so there are many different colonies to begin with. There were French. Right, so the French people had colonies there. The Dutch. Right, New York used to be a Dutch colony. There was also obviously British. And some Spanish colonies, right? So these were all different colonies, different countries that set up colonies in America, okay? British colonies, right? So let's talk about British colonies. Right, the first successful British colony, there were some before that, but the first successful one is Jamestown. So Jamestown began in 1607. Then later on there is what's come to be called the 13 colonies. These were all British colonies. Alright, and you might know some of their names. Let's just list a few. We've got Massachusetts, right? I've abbreviated that. Virginia. And how about Georgia? These were all different British colonies, right? We could also include maybe Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania. So these were just different 13 British colonies, all under Britain, right? Okay. Then next we've got the Revolutionary War. Okay. So the British colonies. Want independence. I'm going to abbreviate independence from Britain. And because of taxes, right? They're upset with the way that Britain is taxing. This is an abbreviation, because. B/C is because. So they're upset for our taxes, right? This leads to the Revolutionary War. I'm going to abbreviate revolutionary to just Rev, which is fought from 1775. It's not a very good 7 to 1781, right? In this Revolutionary War was the Declaration of Independence. Okay, so the Declaration of Independence was signed July 4th, 1776, an important date for American history, right? And this is where I'm going to erase that. I'm having trouble writing. Let's get a smaller eraser. So where American colonies declare independence, obviously. It's hard to read my writing, but you get the idea, right? So we've got several different notes, right? We've got one here, right? We've got these notes here. We've got the British colonies here. We've got the Revolutionary War and the Declaration of Independence right here. Okay? This is where you're going to use this section, the blank section over here. For each one of the sections, right, you're going to do one of these things. You're going to make it into a title or into a question, right? So for example, these two right here, right, these two basically go together. So we're going to make this into one title. We're going to make this into one big title called American Colonies, right? Because that's the main idea, talking about the American colonies. All right, let's make this into a question. All right, how about why did the American colonies want independence? Oops, I forgot my N. Why did the American colonies want independence? I'm going to rewrite that so you can read it. Question mark. Or you could say, when did the Revolutionary War begin and last, or something, right? Something that turns these notes into a question. The main topic of these notes over here, right? These notes into a question that you can write over here. Next one, let's just make this into a quick title. You could even use the date, right? So July 4th, 1776. Okay, so why do you use this blank section over here? What is this section good for? Well, when you have something that you need to review, when you review for a test, right, you can use this section to review, right? I told you to remember this line right here, down the center, right? You could fold it along this line, and then you have these titles right here, and you can quiz yourself. American colonies. Then you have to think about what were some of the original colonies. Well, we started off with many foreign nations or different nations setting up colonies, and then we had the 13 colonies, and you could name a few of the ones you remember, right? So it links to these notes, right? Or you could ask yourself these questions. Why did the American colonies want independence, right? Because of taxes, something like that. So you fold it along this line, and it's a good review, right? Why else, right? Well, when you have to think about what are the main ideas, what are the questions you could ask from your notes in this section, and you have to come up with that in your own words, it helps solidify it. It helps fix it into your mind. So it helps solidify and fix it into your brain. Okay? So we've taken our notes, we've turned them into titles or questions. Let's go to the bottom. Okay, if we can get there, right? So now we're going to use this section down here, this blank section, right? So now this is something, again, that you do after you take your notes up here, after you've done your titles or your questions, right? In this section, remember, you're summarizing. You're making a summary, right? You're reviewing and retelling. So you're taking the main ideas from this section, from your notes, and you're writing it in your own words. Okay? Right? So, America, how about this as a summary? The main idea. America began as a colony, but gained independence from Britain because they were upset at taxes. Right? So we've took the main idea from up here, we've used it in our own words, right? And again, it's the same thing from this section, right? If you are able to write it in your own words and make a summary here, right, it helps fix it into your mind, right? So this is how to use Q notes.